Welcome to Jump School. I'm Ihsaan, the StyleJumper. On today, I got a treat for you. Guys, I know you're familiar with emoji pillows. Well, today I have the guy who created them. His name is Roberto Hoyos, who is the founder and CEO of Throwboy, as well as Shotgun CEO. And he has a phenomenal story. But today we're going to be talking about how to create a successful Kickstarter campaign. He's done an amazing job, and I want you to take a listen real quick of his grandmother describing him as a kid in this amazing clip.
Hi, Roberto.
Roberto learned his craft as a child from his grandmother, a seamstress who designed clothes for REI.
He used to come at my sewing room, and he liked to sew.
She still has the teddy bear outfit her Robertito made when he was 6.
He was very good. Yeah, he was.
Technology has changed what Roberto makes, but the craft and the creativity remain the same.
I'm looking forward to seeing you after the episode, and we'll see you in a minute.
Man, so if people don't know who you are, can you kind of introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. My name is Ihsaan. I go by the StyleJumper. What I do is I help men understand the value of nonverbal communication through what they wear. So you can find me here on Instagram at the StyleJumper, or I have you can check me out on my YouTube channel with the same name, the StyleJumper. There's a separation between the and StyleJumper is one word. But I enjoy doing that. I put together videos. I do photography. I do all my own photos through my iPhone, actually, which is really, really fun to do.
Yeah.
This is a unique approach. So that's what I do from a day-to-day basis as far as like a content creator.
I love your videos, man. I feel like they really break down, like, you know, how to put together certain looks and really what you're trying to achieve from those things, which I think that people don't necessarily think about. They think about, like, you know, trendy type of things and like, oh, I should be buying this because the mannequin has that, so let me just put it on or whatever. And you do a great job, like, breaking down, you know, why things work, why it matters. And especially for people like me, CEOs who want to project that image that they are, you know, a person in power, and that your first like chance, if you will, when you meet somebody is like right there. So that first impression, if you're not getting
opportunity,
then
you're right. Even before you have that conversation, someone's already eyeing you to see if they trust you, if you're someone that's appealing to them. And that's why I actually, you know, named the course the Stylish CEO. Because it's all about, you know, especially, you know, you would be an ideal candidate, you know, someone who's forward thinking, very creative, and just wanting to make sure that all those I's are dotted and those T's are crossed when it comes to how you're communicating to create those opportunities for you that may not happen if you do not speak a word, you know.
Exactly.
It's all about that energy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk more about your course and what you're working on. And get more into that. But before we do that, I really wanted to ask you more about, you dabble in product creation and stuff like that too, right?
Yes.
Because you're a very creative person. So you've thought more about releasing products using crowdfunding.
Absolutely. There's a couple of products that I've really been toying around with. And I know you've been so successful with Kickstarter that, you know, I'm really curious to ask you questions or kind of get your insight on some great strategies, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Sometimes even a product can be great, but if it's not communicated well, especially when it comes to crowdsourcing, it's just going to sit there, crowdfunding, excuse me. And then before you know it, you know, you're not getting those eyeballs on your great product or idea.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that there's plenty of really great, you know, creative people that do awesome products. And like you said, if you're not crafting that in the same way that we were just talking about, like crafting your image in the same way, then it can just completely fall short. It's not communicating, you know, what you're doing. And so I teach a lot about how to do that. But like, people ask me a lot, you know, why even crowdfund, especially today where you can put together a website and have it be like, here's a picture of what I'm working on or what I made, pre-order it right now, and then I'll take all that money and then I'll turn it into, you know, a production, mass production or whatever. Have you thought of that? Have people told you, you know, why not just try that? Or have you thought of just trying that?
Yeah, I've thought of just doing it on my own, you know, not necessarily wanting that risk, you know, that responsibility of possibly complete strangers supporting a product. Then, you know, it may fail, you know, or that, you know, you're not even that you don't fail, but that the fact that you actually put it out there and not enough people understand it. Maybe I didn't film it right. I'm not communicating with enough eyeballs on the actual fundraise, you know, crowdfunding. So that's really, really important. And that's a big fear of mine.
It is. I mean, I hear that a lot. I mean, because, you know, people want to, like you said, they don't want to like risk be feeling unprepared when they put something out into the world, or that maybe they don't totally believe in the thing that they're working on, you know, enough. But I think that belief comes with getting all your ducks in a row. Because if you don't have your ducks in a row, like if you're a creative person, you have a great product, and chances are you probably have sold some of that product or have interest in that product, then the only reason that you wouldn't do a good Kickstarter is by not lining up, you know, your pins properly, if you will. Because I think that's a lot of what people do. I see a lot of the time somebody has something really cool, but they keep it secret, and then they launch it on Kickstarter, and then all of a sudden they think people are going to flood to this Kickstarter, but no one knew about it. You know, no one had any idea that you were working on a thing, and then you have to scramble to get like any attention. You know, like every day you're like, oh crap, my Kickstarter's still on, and then that's like one of the most things I see the most with creative entrepreneurs is they undervalue how important it is to let their audience know what they're working on before they go and put it into the Kickstarter world. Because like I said, once you do that, if you prepare properly, then and you know how to prepare along the way, like the only thing that could mess up is if your product is just absolutely trash. And like we've seen a lot of bad shit get funded on Kickstarter. So
true. But I think to your point, it's a matter of knowing what those pins and ducks are to line up. Because if you don't know what that is, then you're sort of destined to fail. Yeah. So the more we know about what's the, you know, most consistent, productive strategy to get the word out and to share your product with the world, that's the better chance you have at having it funded.
I always talk about, you know, the challenges are, you know, getting traffic, number one, because if you have high traffic, you're going to get a lot of funding. Like that's just how it is, you know. Or in order to get a lot of funding, you need a lot of traffic, is what I meant to say. And you want to get people to care. That's a huge thing. And like I said, being in stealth mode is not the way to get people to care about what you're doing. And then make your project very clear and understandable are like those are the three things, you know. And I teach how to get traffic for your Kickstarter, and that really has like a big effect on getting funding, because, you know, one of the big things is people don't really know like where they're going to get press from. They have no idea like who's going to cover this, how's any of that going to line up. And in my course, Hacking Kickstarter, I teach all about how, like, here's how you get not only the press, but like the right reporters to cover you. And all of these things, sure, they could be done if you wanted to farm this out to like a marketing agency or something like that. But what I try to champion is, you should know the ins and outs of what you're doing with your Kickstarter. You shouldn't just be like, hey, I have an extra $5,000. It's probably more. It's probably like 10, 12, 15, 20 grand to give to a marketing agency and then have them do it. But it's like, if you have that kind of bread, why are you doing it?
Yeah, most of us don't. That's why we're on Kickstarter to get those dollars. That's just really interesting because people get so accustomed to hiding, their ideas, and they think, oh, someone's going to steal it. And, I don't want to share it until it's ready, that kind of deal. But a lot of times, if no one knows but you, and if you've thought of it, then maybe there's other people that thought about it, but you are actually in the process. You've already executed to a degree comparative to most people. They're just thinking about it. You know what I mean?
And another thing is, like, people see things all day long. Like, we're saturated with content now, and so expecting somebody to see something, even if you're out of that stealth mode and you're like, cool, I'm going to start sharing what I'm working on, expecting them to see it, like expecting your whole audience to see it, is like, there's no way. So you have to keep being repetitive, like that's one of those things you have to learn, is to kind of not be embarrassed by showing off what you're working on. You have to really show a lot before people start to kind of click. I think there's a rule, like, if somebody has to see something 7 times for them to realize they saw it at all, So, like,
well, that's interesting too.
Go ahead.
Because you have like the algorithms, right? So, a lot of people aren't seeing your stuff anyway, right? It's not like back in the day where as soon as you post something, your whole network could see it.
Right.
But now it's changed on both, Instagram as well as, Facebook. So, it's really important that you're talking about as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you, once you're out of that sort of, let's say you are launching, you have your Kickstarter, it's up, you do really have to block out that time for nothing but posting about Kickstarter. Every single day you should be posting about Kickstarter.
Do you recommend the same time?
What do you mean?
The same time posting it? You should be posting.
Not necessarily. I mean, I would probably turn to you for that because you're more of the content producer than me. But I think that it depends on your audience and when they respond, because some people's audience spikes at midnight and some people's audience is the morning audience and whatnot.
Sure.
But the algorithm tailors that too. So I don't know. I feel like just having content prepared and going every single day with some sort of Kickstarter related update is hugely important, because it's going to cut through, like it's almost like you want to like break down the algorithm. Like, let me just saturate it so much that it's going to, maybe one of these posts will be seen by like the right person. But like getting all that is something I do see people, they shy away from, because they get feelings of like thinking their audience is going to get annoyed by them, which is almost next to impossible, because you're not going to get like a wall of just your content in somebody's feed,
Yeah.
And people, my friend said he said it best. He was like, the only person you're annoying is yourself, because you have to sit there and write the same thing over and over and talk about it over and over.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Do you think like, people need like a lot of money? You need, to use ads to get attention? What do you think usually?
I think that I don't think that you need ads to do a successful Kickstarter, a very hugely successful Kickstarter. I don't think that you need ads. I didn't use ads on my Kickstarter that raised over $80,000. It was just press and preparing and all the things that I teach in my course. And I think that, if you wanted to use ads, it might not hurt, but it might be a waste of money, because think about it. You're already curating your audience. Let's say you already have a fan base like you do or like I do. You've already curated that. You should be speaking to that versus like, oh, but let me just like throw out a big net and see if I can catch anything. It's like, well, you already have this, and you can make a really successful Kickstarter off, a few hundred people. You don't have to have, thousands and thousands of people, and then get out of those 500 people or whatever.
I usually see that. It's like 300 people, like, and the starter's done really, really well. And
Yep,
300 is like a big number. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting.
Right. Yeah, especially when we're in the era of like, how many followers do you have and, millions of followers and stuff. But yeah, if you look at a successful Kickstarter, sometimes it's like, oh, they have 300 backers and that's it. But as far as like money being like needing to raise a lot of money, I tend to say, yes, in your mind, you should have a mental goal of something large, because that could be life changing. So, maybe your goal on the page is like 10 grand, and that's like the bare minimum of what you need. But you're going to blow past that. And let's say mentally, you really want to get to 100 grand, like you should be really like having those things in place. In my course, I also have what I call the crystal ball spreadsheet. You can actually map out all of the pricing scenarios. So if you had 10 backers, or if you had 100 backers at this level, this is how much money you would make. And so you can like mix it around and kind of give yourself sort of a scenario of what's going to happen in the future. And that can get your eyes and your mind like accustomed to seeing like, oh, dang, I can actually make 150 grand off this thing, with this many backers. So that I think is a big thing. I think it's more of a mental thing than anything. It's like changing your mindset to be able to know that you could make a lot of money, but also having your bare minimum scenario when you're gonna launch. Like, okay, well, I know I have to get this many backers, so I'm preparing ahead of time to be able to speak to that many people. So yeah, I think a lot of that is what I definitely, but I keep saying this, but I don't see a lot of people do when they sort of just like, try it and then like cross their fingers. And, I've been there. I mean, my very first Kickstarter, I didn't know any of this. I didn't know the world yet. Kickstarter was like 2 years old, I think. It was really new. And I just did a marathon. But I think that when you know the right methods, you should be trying to get funded in 48 hours, not 30 days. You should have that time where you just hit it super hard, and then you get all of that funding, and the rest of that time is just spent on just getting more funding and telling more people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like, when it comes to the timelines, right? So usually what are some of the challenges that people typically have when it comes to the Kickstarter?
Yeah, timeline, I'd say 30 days is smart. I think even Kickstarter recommends don't go longer than 30, don't go longer than like 60, or I think you can do 90. Because people forget, people are not.
That's what I was thinking. People will forget at 60 days, 2 months, like,
it's crazy.
I realized you had something going on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, just understanding not just your funding timeline, but understanding your actual timeline of like how long everything's going to take to produce. So like if you're making a book or you're making something that has to get, printed or shipped in, be realistic with your audience. Be like, it's going to take 6 months,
Okay.
Don't be trying to be like Amazon and I'll get it to you next day bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I see people do that because they're like, yeah, but people want instant gratification. It's like, dude, you're revealing yourself to the world on Kickstarter. You're being very transparent. And that's the magic of this platform, is that you can be real and you're not trying to be a store and be like super slick about what you're doing. Because you don't have the money to do what you're doing. You don't have the marketing budget to do what you're doing. You're trying to make something like grassroots, then be grassroots and say, yeah, it's going to take X amount of time for me to put this product out. And just keep your backers happy. Keep telling them updates. Keep telling them what you're up to. Keep telling them, like, look, I just got this made. Here's the packaging. Here, this is coming around the corner. But yeah, the worst thing you can do is be like, oh, it's just going to take like 2 months. And then it takes like a year. Or whatever.
Yeah. But, speaking to that, I love the way that you would, communicate to the audience, this is what I'm doing. And you do exactly what you just said. There's an email coming out, you're showing pictures on social, and it continues to engage us. You know what I mean? So I think that, I'll definitely be planning on taking your course for sure when I launch. I mean, you've been so successful, and it's just a matter of having a clear roadmap and also a coach or a guide, if you will, to help you along those paths where maybe there's some bumps in the road that you don't see. And by having, someone like yourself that you can, have a conversation with and say, hey man, I'm having this challenge. What do you think? Or it's slow. What some pivots that I could make? That would be, really huge, to have a positive outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my course, I also have weekly group coaching calls where I try to help people with that whole, I need that extra encouragement right now. Here's where I am. Is there anything I can do to keep it going? Like, how do I maintain this momentum? Since I've done 5 Kickstarters, I'm like, okay, this is something that I see everyone, who does successful Kickstarters go through, or any Kickstarter for that matter. So here's what you need to know, here's what's coming around the bend, here's what to look out for. Like I tell people to look out for, you're going to get a bunch of vultures in your DMs asking you to cross-promote my thing and I'll cross-promote your thing. And just sleazeball stuff happens when you make a lot of money and when you get a lot of exposure. When you become, featured in the front page, there's people that's their job is to just hit you up.
Tell me that though, Roberto. Tell me about the feature. How does someone get to that? Because I always see that. I'm like, gosh, how could I get to that point where I'm a feature? When they log in and see Kickstarter at a glance.
It really stems from having good traffic and getting funded quickly. And so that's typically what is the recipe to doing that, which is what I teach. Like hacking Kickstarter, the term hacking is because we're breaking this down so that you have these precision results and you will actually get funded quickly versus thinking of it as this long, marathon of 30 days.
Yeah.
So all my last Kickstarters are being funded within 2 to 4 hours,
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
And literally these are the same methods that I'm offering in this course. Is the exact same thing coming out of my mouth. Here's how to do it. Because like I said, once you kind of switch, oh wait, this can be done in a real way and not just a praying way,
It's not a guess or hope. This is proven, It's almost like you've created a scientific method to it, you know what I mean? Where this is the method, follow it step by step, and if you follow it, you'll get you'll get that positive outcome.
Yeah, and that leads to getting featured. That could lead to getting featured in multiple categories, which is great. You can make a graphic for that on your page, so that could lead to more people backing you. If it says funded in 2 hours or some graphic you can put on your page. But yeah, all of those accolades, all those accolades Project We Love or Design or New and Noteworthy or any of that stuff is all because of getting funded really fast. And also having a really well put together page, in my course, I teach about how to have a Kickstarter friendly page. And that's how to have a Kickstarter friendly video. And none of that really takes anything outside of our means of production and anything like that. Because you and I are pretty similar. We like to get content out and we use what we have as far as our smartphones and stuff like that. And, when you're doing a Kickstarter page, one of my most successful Kickstarters, we shot everything on my iPhone 8 and we took all the pictures on my iPhone 8 and we just had and just, had really good copy and everything like that. And I teach how to get, all that to look like when somebody that doesn't know you walks in and they see or they land on your page, they should be able to go, oh, cool, I get this. This is legit. What do I press to get that thing that's up at the top, the big picture that I just saw? And that's really what it is, eliminating all of that. It's the same stuff you teach as far as, projecting who you are and elevating what you are. Sure. It's the same thing. Because, any of the products I create, it depends on the photography, you know, it depends on like
Yeah.
all these things could sell it in a better and more designery type of a way.
Got it.
Or it could be sold as like a Kmart way, you know, like it's all marketing. I teach how to get that effect so that you can be featured on Kickstarter. Now, there's no like guaranteed way to do that. It's really just broken down to getting traffic, getting funded. But one of my previous students was like, that was his top question. Well, how do I get featured on Kickstarter? And he got funded super fast. You know, he got funded in like 5 hours.
Wow, man,
raised over $30,000, and then he got featured. You know, he got featured on Kickstarter because of those things. You know,
yeah,
it happens when you do the work and put in the work beforehand.
It just blows me away. I keep saying wow because you know there's thousands of people who you know try to do a Kickstarter, thousands and thousands,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's only a unique few that gets funded. And especially in that such a short time period, that's a whole nother class of execution. So, and your course has to be spectacular.
Well, once you do that too, another thing that could incentivize or get you excited is when you do a successful Kickstarter where you have a few hundred people that backed you. The likelihood that those people are going to back your next Kickstarter is extremely high. My last Kickstarter. So my Kickstarter, I've done 2 sort of year after year. And the one that I just did, 90% of the people were from my previous Kickstarter.
Oh, so wow.
I think it's like 80 to 90% were from the previous Kickstarter. And so that's enormous. That's why you see people that have brands, maybe they release a board game every year or something like that, and they launch it on Kickstarter. That's why people go, well, why are they launching on Kickstarter again? Don't even get me started on that. But like, it's because they have that built-in audience that's already ready to back it. You know, they're already ready to go. And then all of a sudden they have a new product launched, and then it gets funded because of their already vested backers. You know, so yeah, I think that's a huge thing. But as far as, like I said, I think a lot of this stuff does correlate to what you do, and just projecting a good image of what you're working on to the world. That's why lots of these guys get funded on Kickstarter. Can you tell me more about your stuff and what you're working on YouTube and everything like that?
Yeah, man. As far as YouTube, I'm just laughing to move around a bit. You know, that's one of the things that's unique about being a parent. You know, it's always managing and have like, well, one of my friends will call the Chinese circus. There's things that's always going on. And then it's really interesting because I just did a video and something went on with my daughter. And, you know what I mean? So I'm always putting out fires. But exactly, you know, the channel itself is really interesting because I'm a man in my mid-40s. And one of the things I find is uniquely challenged for guys in my age range, let's say in a 10-year time span between, I'd say, 55 and, you know, meeting me on both ends. So 55, the top end of me, and 35 on the bottom end of me, where we've been influenced by hip hop so much, right? And we just don't know how to juxtapose being an adult male and still having that influence and still being creative in the way that we look. And most people, they get so locked into the era, usually between their high school graduation and college graduation. It's music, what you wear, your aesthetic, your point of view is really locked in usually at that time, during that time period. So I do a lot about trying to, you know, communicate how to, you know, bridge that gap with style. And so I recently came up with this idea called adult street, you know, because I love that, you know, streetwear has been going on for years, you know, 30 years of streetwear, but I can't put on the same thing as my 22-year-old nephew. You know, it just doesn't look right. Or you'll see those guys who still do a lot of hype beats, we call it, like, you know, like big brand names on their clothes and stuff like that. That's to me, it's a little corny, or a whole lot corny, actually. And so I just think that if guys understand how to still have, or, you know, be a little fly, if you will, but still look mature,
Yeah.
you know, then there's a whole another umbrella of element to themselves that they probably didn't realize. So I'm always trying to show those different things and really pushing, you know, guys to think outside of the box.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do a really great job. I mean, like, I did a talk last year, and I wanted to do something like what you just said. Like, I have, you know, I have a nice tailored suit, and
Yeah.
I was like, but I don't want to go up on stage in a suit and leather shoes necessarily, because I think I'll just sort of disappear, you know? Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not that interesting. And so I was like really on the lookout for a graphic tee and some like cool shoes, like some minimalist sneakers. And I got
Exactly.
that all from your video. I was like, I know I love that look, and I found that through you. And then I sort of just like went on Pinterest and tried to figure out, you know, how to get it to look like what I wanted. And I went on like a long shopping trip to find the right graphic tee. I was like, no, I don't want it to be like so eye catching. I finally settled on a Biggie Smalls tee, and you can see it like kind of peek out a little, and I was like, that's enough. Like, that's what I
And
wanted.
that's enough, right? That was enough for people. Okay, Roberto's cool. Number one, he knows he rocks Biggie, so he got to be cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then to be so bold to wear it with a suit,
Mm-hmm.
and then to merge that with those minimalist sneakers. And that's where people just kind of, you know, they really mess up. You know, they're either wearing some really crazy T-shirt.
Yeah.
Excuse me, this suit is ill-fitted, it's too long, you know, too big, and you end up just looking sloppy. So I do that on, you know, communicating those videos on YouTube, and then on Instagram is really about the imagery. How do I convey that same message of being a nonverbal communicator, a mature male that has great style, and not being over the top, too flamboyant, but also not ultra dressy? Because I think we can, you know, outside of, you know, your career, which you specifically work. I mean, some people have to wear a traditional suit and tie, but for me, I love to do a mix of that on the weekends. And that's what that adult street where you'll see me with a blazer, a button-up shirt with no tie, and some camo chinos, you know, and just like really in a pair of wingtip, you know, Oxford shoes, and just really like pushing the envelope and having guys think about, wow, I never thought that I could put those together. And I don't want everyone to dress like me, but it's to, you know, pique that curiosity, to spark that idea like, oh, okay, or those colors look good together, or now I understand why a certain color looks right with this particular, you know, outfit or what have you. So I enjoy that, you know, on a day-to-day basis. And so it's been 2 years of me developing and building a channel. And then I've, you know, come up with a couple of things that I'm working on right now.
Yeah. So tell me about you're talking about, you've written a book and you're working on a book, or it's finalized, and tell me more about this.
So the book is called Why Style Matters, the mindset of dressing well in all aspects of your life. And so the most important thing with, you know, style truly matters is your mind. Like, what do I think? You know, there's tons of stuff out there, books, videos, courses about, you know, what shirt looks right with this particular suit. But no one really talks about the mentality and how you connect the dots and understand the full story of dressing well. And so I broke down the book into 3 sections. The first part was about me and my story. The second part is about the mindset. And then the third portion is just about the mechanics. And so I wanted the mechanics to be the last, because if I started with the mechanics, then I think people will be bored out of their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the book is being edited right now. I'm super excited, and I'm constantly adding. In my last video, I was speaking about how one of my best friends, my mentor, is actually in Seattle. You should connect with him. His name is Sean Watson. He goes by Moses' son. on Instagram.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
sent
so
them to me. Yeah.
yeah, you should check him out because he suggested that I actually read a physical book instead of doing Audible all the time. And I have all these books and tons of books here. And the book, actually, it's Dapper Dan. I have it right here, Made in Harlem. It's an awesome book, and
Yeah.
I think his family they grew up, they were from South Carolina, and it was this whole just first couple of pages of the book talked about like this migration to Harlem in New York. And I'm reading it, and dude, it was like I was in a movie, and it took and it took me back because I live in right outside of DC now, and it took me back to where I was as a kid in South Carolina, being raised with a huge extended family, but listening to all those old songs from church, and my grandmother cooking, and all those things just really brought me back. So I say that to say it's just really interesting how you can always add to something that you've created, and I'm happy that it's in the editing process.
That's so cool. Congratulations, man.
Thanks, man.
Can't wait to be your first buyer for this book, and maybe you'll kickstart it, and we'll see how it goes, and get a publishing deal for this, and the whole works.
That was amazing. So maybe that'll be the next course we figure out maybe together.
Yeah.
How do we have a really good book launch?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny because I want to learn more about the course you're working on, but before I turned Hacking Kickstarter into a course, I was already writing it as a book. So it's like we kind of went flip-flopped. We did it.
Interesting.
Because I know you've been working on this book for quite a while, and I was already thinking like maybe this should be a book. Yours is it's much more effective, I think, in book and course form. Mine, I don't know how fast technology can change, you know what I mean? So a book can get updated quickly. So that's my only thing that I'm a little bit like, maybe I can write something about some other topic, but, you read some of these famous books that are like Gary Vaynerchuk or something like that, and they're really outdated now because the websites don't exist anymore and things.
Sure.
But yeah, tell me about the new course that you're preparing and working on right now.
One thing I would say about the book, Roberto, that I think you still should do it is because it's just a timestamp, right? So, think about Hemingway and all those people back in the day, those thoughts, and even for yourself, how you've evolved and how things have evolved. And, when someone reading your book and they're reading, wow, this used to happen, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? So it's just a completely different point of view.
That's true. I do read old business books that were written in the early 1900s, and a lot of those statements are still, a lot of the teachings are still effective. Like there's one called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
That's right.
It was written in like 1936 or something like that, but a lot of the fundamentals are completely still valuable and usable, and I read that very early into my business career, and still use all of that stuff. But if you were to listen to like the specifics, it's like, oh, you get on your typewriter and write this letter or whatever. It's just like you have to like switch your
you just flip your mind to what's current.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool, man. But with regards to the course is called the Stylish CEO. And so what's going on with CEOs, what I believe is that CEOs and entrepreneurs get so hyper-focused on their product or service, but that they forget to acknowledge that they're a part of the brand themselves. And so they are the ultimate brand ambassador. They are the most important person when it comes to communicating, articulating their brand and product. And so if they're not excellent nonverbal communicators, there's just opportunities walking by constantly.
Yeah.
So the goal is to start with mindset. How do you make that shift? What type of, myths that are out there or things that are prohibiting them from understanding and knowing that it's important to dress well. And then we go to, okay, How do I put it together? Or these are some key items that you need. How do I put it together? And then actually talk about even colors, like the mindset and the psychology around colors. And then finally, yeah, man. And so finally wrapping it up with speaking about the brand message versus the brand. How are you communicating that brand message in your personal brand, and how do we merge those two together, and then wrap up the entire course, communicating, really like tying everything together. And I want it to be like a graduation in each chapter. Okay, I have to get my mind right first. Once I get my mind right, I need to understand, where do I start? Once I figure out where do I start, okay, now that I'm starting here, what do I need to purchase? Like, what are some items that I need, right?
So you talk about, like, if you were to go to a store and you get people prepared to be able to know, like, what to look for, and, how to try things and everything like that.
Yes, exactly. Because, you don't want to waste time, especially as a CEO. You usually really are crunching for time. You got a lot of things on your plate. So you want to be as hyper focused as possible, whether you're spending the time physically going shopping or you're going online. You want to have a good idea of what you're going to do, and think of it basically like a business plan. You need to execute every single time. These are the things that I need. These are going to help me be successful. And my goal is X, you know what I mean? And so I talk about that in the course. And then, I think that anyone that decides to take this course, they're going to get a lot of value. There's a lot of imagery that I'm working, like in the middle of the course, there's a lot of imagery to break down different, items, different types of looks, because we all have different styles. Sure. So I wanted to make sure that I break down several styles. And obviously, again, it's not going to be someone dressing like me, but just kind of give them a point of reference to take that and then flip it for themselves. And then, of course, obviously, going to be some communication. We'll talk to get, there's going to be an email opportunity, a weekly call. It's a 6-week course. So there's going to be a lot of interaction and a lot of engagement.
That's great. I'm
so excited to have this, this course go and launch.
Absolutely, man. Me too. I'm already ready to take that course. Like, I feel like, I kind of go in and out of being like, remembering how important it is for me to be the face of my brand and everything like that. Even though I've done that for years, it's always nice to figure out how to elevate that. And there's a lot of gaps I have in style, and I feel like whenever I do have those sorts of gaps, I look at what you're doing on your YouTube channel, and I'm like, so, offering something that's more even deeper than what any content that you created, and that I can incorporate into what I am and what I'm working to, become and everything like that. Like, sold, man. And I think there's a lot of people like that. I think there's a lot of people that are ready to get to invest in themselves and really taking their image seriously, and why style is not just something that can be put on the back burner or whatever. So all of this stuff is covered in your course, and elevating people's mindset and showing them the exact ways to kind of tailor what they want as far as being a stylist CEO.
Yes, absolutely. It's not, cool. I'm not the absolute answer, but I think I can fill a lot of voids and gaps and help people connect the dots. And that's the most important thing, is helping people connect their own dots to reach, for them to be the stylist CEO of who they are.
Absolutely.
To your point, just like with your course, just give someone a successful roadmap or a guideline. Because every product, everyone that takes your course, their product is going to be different.
Yep.
But it's the roadmap.
The roadmap.
That's what's going to get them where they want to go to be successful.
Definitely. Well, Ihsaan, homie, it's been really good. I don't want to take your whole day. I know it's later there. Where can everybody find you on social?
Sure. So thanks, Roberto. It's been amazing. I really enjoyed our conversation. So for those of you who are interested in improving your style and get a boost, which is why it's called StyleJumper, the jumper cables, the boost your style, give you that energy. I can be reached here on Instagram at the StyleJumper, and I can also be found on YouTube at the StyleJumper as well, or just the word "the" and then StyleJumper, one word, and I'll be there to help get you excited, give you some great stories, and also, push you a little bit.
For sure. You push me.
That's what's up.
Everybody go follow Ihsaan, and then look out for his book and course coming around the bend.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to taking your course as well, Roberto. Can't wait.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Yeah, hacking Kickstarter.
Wasn't that great? Well, remember, guys, here at Jump School, we're all about thinking of things to assist you in jumping, freeing your mind, creating opportunities for yourselves. And we'll see you on the next one. If you want to see what I'm wearing on a day-to-day basis, check out my Instagram. There you'll find a ton of looks that maybe you can choose from, or at least get some inspiration. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast. And if you have any questions or suggestions, leave it in the comments below. We'll see you next time.